Hey everybody, this is Claire, and this is Small Joyful Things. As always, I go to thrift stores or estate sales, or sometimes I buy things from Craigslist, and I'm always looking for things that I personally like or that I think you guys might find interesting. And then I bring them home, try and find out as much as I can about them, and then tell you guys about them. So here's what I've got today. I hope this shows up nicely on the camera. And I'm afraid that it's kind of showing up more brown on my lighting than anything else. I can tell you that under normal lights anyway, it is actually like quite purple. I just I mean, the light here is just not great, and I'm obviously looking at the camera while I'm filming this, and yeah, doesn't really show it in the best light, I would say. This is a rose bowl. I still don't entirely know why they're called rose bowls. I think, you know, you put a little bit of water and they put a big bunch of roses in, I guess, and it just kind of looks nice, I guess. I just did a quick look around, and just it seems to be that's what they're actually called. That's the kind of internet consensus. A vase of this shape is a rose bowl. So make it out what you will. Now, before I just measure it up real fast, it is about, eyeballing, like 4.5 inches across, and 3 3/4 inches high. So what else can we actually say about this? So I bought this for $8 in a thrift store, and it's actually far more than I would like to pay for a vase like this. Even though this is a fairly nice one, it's just, I tend to get wary when I'm spending more than about $5 because I'm not sure whether it's going to be worth it or not for something like kind of unknown. I did do the normal thing, checking the rim and everything, and the base to make sure that it was actually in good condition. You can feel a very slight roughness on the inside here. There are no big flea bites or chips, it's just it's definitely there. And if we look very carefully at the rim, which may not come focus, you can just about make out where it's been kind of polished down a little, which does not really bode well. I've seen a lot of them like that, and they just don't, like, you shouldn't be able to see anything in that rim, I don't think. It should just be completely smooth. Yeah, definitely does not bode well. Now, apart from that, we do have these other little kind of imperfections. You can see the bubbles in the, yeah, come on, focus. You can see little bubbles in the glass. There's actually another one right there. There's another one that's on more on the inside, but it's definitely there. Another one there. Not great. Now, okay, so I bought this for $8, and having just said I'm usually far more wary about buying anything of that cost, I usually want to be more sure about myself. Well, why did I get this? Well, it's really because I see a lot of vases and other things that look a lot like this, and generally they're rubbish. They're even worse than this. They will be flashed on the outside, which means they're just kind of painted. They're not really, there's not really a proper layer of glass, and then they're cut through like this, and they're cut through very badly, as in all the cuts will be misaligned. It won't look right, and it just they're just generally in very bad condition as well. I thought it would be cool to kind of get this one because this one is kind of one of the better examples that I found, and it's still for $8 really not great. Like, I've even shown you, like, this, you can see that this got manufacturing defects. It's got a lot of kind of bubbles where bubbles really shouldn't be, because it doesn't, like, it, I mean, obviously it's blown glass, you can't really avoid it, but for a lot of cut crystal, you generally don't see a lot of the bubbles. Like, it's weird seeing the bubbles. It kind of strikes me as being like either it's very old or someone was half-assing stuff, because I have handled and looked at a lot of really good crystal that obviously, because it's in a thrift store, no one really wants. You just don't see a lot of it. It's like the bubbles are something for art glass, not really for crystal, like for the nice stuff anyway. But this definitely has it. You can see in the base as well, it's got even more kind of bubbles. It's also got these little, there's at least one little pock mark. I think that's it there. I'm going to try and get this on the camera. You can essentially see where the layer of glass that goes over it, like, didn't take on that point, if you know what I mean. So yeah, the inner core of this is obviously clear glass. It has a very thin layer of purple or amethyst glass that is currently showing up brown on camera, going over it, that they essentially cut through in order to create the design. Now, the other thing that I've been looking at is that if you actually look at the designs themselves, they're awkward, kind of a little bit off center. And in fairness, that does actually tell us that it was cut by hand, which is, great or whatever, but it's just not done especially well. This is kind of misaligned, it's not great. These ones don't quite line up very well. Someone is just like not really doing a fantastic job. They don't quite meet properly there in the middle. And I have actually looked at this, for what it's worth, I did actually look at all of these cuts, or some of them anyway, under my loop. And it's even possible to see, possibly not on the camera, but definitely when I take off my glasses and look at the naked eye, I can definitely see them. You can see that the very faint parallel lines that indicate that this was cut on a diamond cutting wheel. This is not like old stuff. Like, it's not, we're not talking early 20th century or something here. This is after the invention of diamond cutting wheels, which means it's after World War II. So the other thing is actually, then this is probably a better example of the cuts not being great, but you can see the way that the edges here, that is a clean cut and it's properly, both edges of the cut are straight. That one just kind of looks a little half-assed. Like somebody wasn't doing a good job on the cutting. So, yeah. And so I've basically spent the last 5 minutes just explaining why this is kind of a rubbishy vase, despite the fact that I spent $8 on it. And I don't believe that's kind of very fair criticism. I basically just want to let you know that, like, I've looked at it and decided that it's kind of the best of a bad bunch. Because a lot of the time I'll see cut glass and like it in a thrift store and it will look really, really terrible. And this one kind of just like, maybe this looks a little bit better, but no, it's still got a fair bit of issues. It's probably worth about the $8 that I spent on it. And probably no more than that, because it's really nothing great. It looks like it has the problem of being a piece of glass that it looks like somebody half-assed. And if you kind of know glass and know what should and shouldn't be there, especially with the cuts, it's like for really nice cuts, and especially because I've had a chance to actually handle like really good, like American Brilliant cut glass, I know what good cuts look like. They don't look like this. These look like someone didn't care. So, having said all that, like, do we have anything comparable? Do we know who made it for a start? And I kind of don't. The closest I've got to say is these guys, Gorham Crystal. I found some examples that have a kind of superficial similarity to this. This one, though, is much too big. It's an 8-inch rose bowl. There's a 7-inch one here as well, but that's really it. Like, we have nothing more than that. So if this is actually a piece in the pattern, which is kind of doubtful, I just think this is just the closest comparison I could find. This is, it's not listed on replacements.com. Doesn't really bode well. The other problem as well is that, like, a lot of the search results are for Gorham, if you're actually want to try and find out more, just to see if you can find out whether this is a piece by them, are poisoned by the fact that the Gorham company apparently makes silver. There is 2 companies, but if you're actually doing a search for, like, you're trying to find out more information about Gorham, the company who does glassware, you got to try and battle with this as well. Definitely an issue, especially if you're trying to find out information, if trying to separate, like, the stuff that you want from the stuff that Google thinks you want. It's a thing. But anyway, if we're actually just taking a look here, there's a lot of other examples of this, and some specifically the ones that I picked out would have been Bohemian cut to clear. I thought that this was going to be the closest match, like that this is going to be like the Bohemian style. It's not actually Bohemian, obviously, because Bohemia didn't exist after the 1920s, but it's going to be like Czech glass. It's going to be in that general area. You can see the color a little bit better, and then it's coming up more kind of a reddy color. No, in color it's more, in person it doesn't quite look like this. It actually looks more purple. But you can see that there are a few other examples here, and that people do call it like Bohemian glass because they this, oh yeah, that's the style. And I do know that, like, early 20th century, if you're looking at like cut to clear glass, a lot of it is going to be Bohemian, it's going to be Czech, it's going to be the good, the good stuff, definitely. And there are a lot of examples in this style of rose bowls done like this. Whether this is one of those, I'm not sure. I can't say for sure whether it actually is Czech. I suspect, considering the quality of the cuts and the quality of the glass itself, it's not. It's probably sorry to say, it's probably Chinese made. Or it's essentially someone who's taking after, like, someone who's taking like the style of early 20th century Bohemian, like cut to clear glass, and sort of half-assing it. But yeah, them's the breaks when you're looking at vintage glassware. So I want to just take this as a kind of a cautionary warning. Like, when you're looking at this kind of stuff, be very clear about what you're actually holding in your hand. If you can, get a loupe and learn how to tell the difference between like cuts made with a diamond wheel versus cuts made with like a stone wheel or what have you. Like, that's a really good way to tell between the really old stuff and the more modern stuff. You're gonna have to look for like quality and everything as well, especially like in the actual cuts. The cuts should line up. They should line up. They should continue properly through to where they should terminate properly. They should not be kind of weirdly tilted or off center. Like you can see here, that one is almost touching. These two are touching here, but there's a massive gap on that side. Like, that's not right. Like, if someone was actually paying attention and doing it correctly, that should not have happened. They should have had a pattern whenever lined up, telling them where to cut. Yeah. So what's going to happen to this vase? I'm probably going to give it back to the thrift store. I don't feel kind of it's worth my time to go and sell it. I don't think it's a very good piece overall. I just think it's good to examine it carefully and learn from it. I think that's probably worth the $8 that I spent. So here you go. That's my small joyful thing for the day. Maybe, I don't know how joyful, but I figure as long as you're learning something, then it's worthwhile. So I hope you guys enjoyed this as well. Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.